Welcome to the Bold Goal Crusher podcast. For anyone looking to stop letting life get in the way and start crushing bold goals. I'm your host, Sara Mayer, and I'm thrilled to navigate this journey with you because it's time to start boldly achieving without working double time. So let's dive in. Hello, Bold Goal Crushers. I'm super excited about this episode, and I think you are really going to love my guest today. So let me introduce you to my guest today. As CEO and founder of Tracy Beavers Coaching, Tracy has a proven track record in marketing, sales, and business growth with an award-winning career spanning 20 years and a multi-six-figure business. Tracy has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs with everything from overcoming the fear of sales to growing their business visibility through organic marketing strategies. She's been honored nationally by Vanity Fair Lingerie as a support advisor winner for women in entrepreneurship. She is the creator of 2 online programs, Business Visibility Made Easy and Be Confident Entrepreneur. Tracy, I am so excited to have you on the show. I have been waiting to record this for a little while, but I knew that I wanted you on the show the minute we connected.
Thank you. I'm really excited that you asked me to be here. And I agree. When we connected, I was like, I need to get to know Sara a little bit better. So thank you.
Yeah. And I always love to hear, especially people who have exited corporate, how you ended up in this roller coaster of entrepreneurship. So I'd love to hear your story.
It's such a roller coaster. And if I'd known exactly what I was getting myself into, I might not have done it. I have to be super honest about that. So I spent over 20 years in corporate America. Like, I was raised in the generation where you go to high school, you go to college, you get the job, you're thankful for the job, any job, right? And you don't job hop and you stay there for 40 years, even if you hate it. And then you're supposed to get a pension and a gold watch, a retirement party, and a cake.
And a vacuum somewhere along the way.
Somewhere along the way, yes. That's
Yeah.
like the 10-year anniversary gift as a vacuum cleaner. And so that was the plan, right? And then long about 2005 is when nationally companies started saying sizing, downsizing, restructuring. And I was part of that. And my company talked about restructuring and downsizing. And I was like, what is happening? Nobody told me this was going to happen. And so that was my first taste of corporate instability. And then fast forward through a few toxic bosses, we've all had those, a few jobs that turned out to be something completely different than what they promised. And I truly thought, I knew I didn't have any control over my time, but I thought I had control over my money because I was always in a marketing and sales business development role where there was a commission structure, right? Like, the more you produce, the more you make. The final straw for me was I was working for the CEO of a title insurance company in business development, and I had grown the business 86% the first year I was there. And he had the nerve to tell me that he didn't think I was going to be that successful. He was going to need to redo the compensation plan because he felt like I was making too much money. And I literally was like, what in the world I was like, this makes absolutely no sense to me. And that was really the final straw, because I had inklings over the years before that, how God throws little pebbles at your head for a while until he hits you with a rock or a brick or something. And that was the wall right there. And I was like, okay, that's it. I can't do this anymore. It didn't feel good anymore. It didn't feel rewarding anymore. And so I was in a women's mastermind, and I was really confused because the corporate was all I had ever known. I'd been an entrepreneur off and on, but never full time to any great success. There was one time my best friend and I sold purses in between when I was downsized and when I went back to corporate. There's a 2-year period where I tried some things. We sold purses. We had a blast. We made zero money, but it was so much fun. And so being an entrepreneur for me was always like a side hustle that never really came to fruition. Plus, my dad worked for himself my entire life, and that was not glamorous at all. That looked not fun. So I kept thinking, now what am I going to do? And the women in my mastermind, they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I really just want to call my own shot. I really want to have my own time and have my own money. And really, is that far-fetched? Is it possible? I see people online all the time with the laptop lifestyle. And I said, are they lying? Is it true? Can you really do that? And they're like, yeah, some people can make it happen. So through them, they helped me realize that I needed to be a coach because I'd actually always been a coach. I was always the person people came to, personally, professionally, whatever. Somebody was always in my office asking for help. And so then they were like, "What do you love to do?" And I said, "I love to help people build businesses." And people are always asking me, "How is sales so easy for you? How are you building these businesses so easily? It just doesn't look like it. It looks effortless. Teach us how to do this." And so that's how I decided. I thought, okay, I'm going to be a business and sales coach in the online space. But I started in my local market before I graduated into online. I started where a whole lot of people start, which is with the low hanging fruit of your warm market, networking amongst the people that already know you and doing one to one work. And I did that alongside my corporate job because I was scared. I was scared to leave because I was making well over six figures, even though I hated it. But we were a two-income household. The kids were high school and middle school at the time, and we were headed into buying cars and going to college. And if I'd said to my husband, "Hey, guess what I'm going to do?" He would have been like, "Not on your life."
Yeah.
And so, Sarah, I had to hatch a plan to leave. And so what I did was I started building the coaching practice alongside the job. As the coaching practice made money, I was able to do what I call a step down approach. So I was able to step down into a smaller corporate role, less money, but less stress, which gave me more time and energy to build the online business, which I could step down again, build here, step down again until I could fully walk on out. And I love sharing that because in case there's somebody out there that's listening that is feeling like I did, I thought it was an all or nothing thing. I thought
Yeah.
I either had the corporate career or I quit and I went all in on the entrepreneur thing. I didn't, it took me a hot second to realize I could do both and balance those and not stress myself out quitting cold turkey and then not having any money coming in.
Yeah. And I think so many people have done it all in or not for whatever reason. I always share my story during COVID. I was temporarily laid off. And
Yeah.
then when they called me back, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this other thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm good.
But I have worked with clients who they're not sitting in a cube. They're sitting in their corner office, but they're not happy. And they know this isn't what they dreamed about or what they wanted. And it's been really hard to cut those strings just all together. I
Scary.
I did work with a client who she did what you did. She started her little side hustle, and then her side hustle was getting bigger and needed more time,
Yeah.
and so she ended up quitting her corporate job and taking on a smaller part-time job. So she really had 2
Mm-hmm.
side hustles until she eventually let that one go too. But I
Yeah.
think it is a little scary, especially when you have that security of every 2 weeks, this
Hmm.
is or however many times you get paid, this
Yeah.
is going into my account, and when I need to go to the dentist, I have this dental insurance and health
Yes.
insurance, and
Yes.
building it on your own is scary at first, but it's so rewarding. So I wanna talk a little bit about the rewards, like, now that you're on the other side,
Yeah.
obviously, you don't I hope you don't regret it, but
Oh,
what are
I
some of
don't.
the rewards from actually doing that, taking that leap?
Yeah, that's a fun question. So I don't regret it, although I am honest enough to say I have days where I think, "Oh, this is how it ends. This is it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need to quit the job." Like sometimes I'll Voxer my assistant if I'm having a bad day. I'm like, "Okay, I think this is where it ends," and she just Voxers me back and says, "I think you're having a bad day. Go take a walk." But yeah, so some of the fun parts are being able to craft my day and week the way I want to craft it instead of having to get up at a certain time to an alarm, run around, find something to wear, fight traffic, get to work, and have almost no say in how the days go each day, Monday to Friday, where the only days where I had a say so were Saturday and Sunday, but really not really because I was trying to do everything I needed to do during the week to get ready for the next week. So, what's nice is being able to be more available for my family than ever before, especially my aging parents. My dad passed last fall, and I was able to go to my hometown, take care of my mom from the day he passed through I think I stayed with her the next 10 days. And that would have been possible maybe in corporate if I'd had enough PTO built up and I had the right kind of team to support me. But I was very thankful to not have to call a boss and beg for that time and not feel like I needed to be rushed or feel guilty that I'm leaving people behind to do my job. Our daughter is 25 now. She just bought her first home. I was able to go house hunting with her. I was able to help her navigate the mortgage lending process. I was able to go to the closing with her and not have to ask anybody about it. And she has this beautiful 2-year-old Labrador, and we have a Labrador who's 9. And now I'm able to be Mimi to this grand dog. And I texted her just today and I said, hey, would she like to come over to Camp Spoiled Rotten? That's what I call my house, Camp Spoiled
Yeah.
Rotten, tomorrow and spend the day with Mimi. I wouldn't have been able to do that. And those aren't great, big, grandiose things, but they're things that mean so much to me. I'm able to say, when do I really want to be publicly working, meaning seeing clients, being on podcasts, things like that? When do I want to be quietly working with no hair and makeup and clothes that don't match? When do I want to walk the dog? When do I want to exercise? It's just it took some getting used to. I don't know about you, but it took some getting used to, because in corporate, you get everything. You get the business card, you get the name tag, you get the phone, you get the desk, you get the parking spot, you get the job description, all the things. And so I remember when I was sitting here by myself in the house, I was like, okay, wait, I'm in charge of this ship. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
Who decides the schedule? How's this thing going to go?
Yeah.
But
I used to say at my old job, my old position, I identified a problem and I would lay out the problem and then say, it's not really in my job description to solve this problem, and I'm not the decision maker, but I'm happy to provide any details. And then
Right.
I could just walk away
Right.
because honestly, it wasn't my deal. It was somebody else's problem at that point. And now it's really a cool thing. It sounds maybe not so cool, but when there is a problem, like I get to decide how we solve it. Whereas
Yeah.
many times in my old career, I would identify the problem. I'd be like, and that's the solution you guys came up with?
Yeah, I
Really?
know.
That's the way we're going with this? All
Right.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of fun parts of it. What about for you? What do you love most about it? What are some fun things?
You outlined a lot of the things, the freedom, the ability to really set my own schedule. I'm a night I'm most creative at night. So, the 9 to 5 thing never really my boss used to say, if I ever wanted you to do something creative, I'd always ask you at 3 o'clock because I knew that's when I'd get the best between 3 and 7. I'd get the best kind of creative response. So, all of those things. But I think the other thing is really the opportunity to provide opportunities to others. I'm fortunate to have a team and to hear them say, I've always wanted to do this, and I can give them that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that I think is incredibly empowering and just really cool. The things that if you hire well and you recruit, I recruited people who love to do stuff that I just am either not good at or just don't like to do.
Yeah.
And to see them get excited about things where I'm like, okay, we're doing this. I don't really
Right.
like that part of it, but this goes along with it. And they
Right.
just think it's great. So to see them really excel in those roles is really cool.
Yeah.
And to be able to make those decisions and to really give opportunities to others, I think is one of the coolest parts.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's lovely when they want to pick up something that is not your favorite thing and they're excited about it and you're like, knock yourself out. Let me
Have a good time.
have a good time with that. I'm thankful for you because I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also just working alongside, I do work with a lot of other entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders and helping them to make things possible that they maybe thought were impossible.
Yes, that's really rewarding too. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I can help my clients and my students achieve something that they knew in their heart they could do, but they just didn't see the roadmap to get there. And when you lay that out in very clear action steps and they're like, oh my gosh, I could actually do this. And I'm like, yeah, you can actually do this. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. So I'm really curious, what would you say is the biggest lesson or some wisdom that you would give to a future entrepreneur who's just maybe starting out or thinking about starting out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a couple of things. One is the online space is completely different than corporate. It's like speaking a completely different language. I'm a highly educated woman used to mastering things quickly, being a producer, being a self-starter. And I got into the online space and I was like, what language are these people speaking? What is a funnel? What is a lead
Yeah.
magnet? What's Kajabi? What, what in the world? And so we have to give ourselves some grace on the learning curve in this space. And then also remember that everything's going to take a couple, 2 to 3 times longer than you planned on it taking.
Mm.
The biggest thing I would say that I find that derails most of my clients and students is a lack of consistency, putting into place the systems and processes that they can do. So when I say consistency, a lot of people say, what does that mean? And that's a great question. What it doesn't mean is spending 24 hours a day on social media, exhausting yourself trying to post 2 to 3 times a day, 7 days a week. That's not what that means. What it does mean is decide what you can do in the bandwidth that you have. So when I was building this alongside my corporate job, my time was limited, as you can imagine. I knew that I wanted to have a free Facebook group, and I knew that I wanted to be on Facebook. I didn't really follow, wasn't really on Instagram very much, even when I was in corporate. I knew it was there, but I didn't pay much attention to it. And LinkedIn at that time was a place where you went to go either be recruited or find a job.
Yeah.
It's evolved
or to get a cleaning company bid. I get a lot of those people want to come clean my home office.
Hilarious.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I was on Facebook. So I so decide what you've got the bandwidth for. So is it one platform? Is it 3 days a week you're going to post on that platform? What is going to be your regular piece of weekly content? Is it going to be a live weekly training, what I do? Or is it going to be a podcast like what you do? And those things have to be authentic to you also, so that in the time that you've got, but also feel good to you. Otherwise, you're not going to do them at all. And then be consistent day in, day out, week in, week out with those 3 posts a week, with that one piece of regular weekly content, with that Facebook group, with the networking and all of that. Because what happens is they try something a couple of times and they decide this isn't working. Nobody commented, nobody hearted, nobody liked, nobody joined me live, nobody downloaded my podcast. And they try it 2 or 3 times and then they go, nope, I'm going to try something else. And then that doesn't work because they didn't give it enough time. They go try something else. And so they're ping-ponging all over the place and they're not giving themselves and their marketing messaging and their business enough time to get any traction and analytics to actually see what is going to work and what's not going to work. It takes time. Back when I was in corporate, the marketing efforts that I put in January would pay off in late March or April. In the online space, in my opinion, it's a little longer than that now. It used to be 60 to 90 days. Now I think it's a little bit longer. So we can't just start into something in January and expect to see results in February. We'll get some quick wins and you might get some results, but not nearly the results that you will get if you keep going and keep tweaking, keep iterating, and have the faith and the confidence that what you're doing is of value. They start to doubt themselves and they start to think, is anybody going to buy this? Is this resonating? There's too much competition, all the crap that we tell ourselves. And then that's when the consistency wheels fall off the bus and then there goes their business growth.
Yeah. And I think many times that comes from that our paychecks were consistent at corporate.
Right.
And so we need the money. And so we, as entrepreneurs, and I'll speak for myself, I know I needed fast results.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try things. And then when I didn't get the results, like I have to try something else. And the one thing I learned from being in corporate that I forgot when I was an entrepreneur was that there are things that we will do that we want a direct return on our investment for. We want to see a click. We want to see somebody buy and we want to see the money go in the account. But then there are things that we do to increase our awareness so people know about us. And we have to be really careful mixing those two things, because just because I'm putting out a podcast show or doing a live event, if I'm not actually tying that to the action of buying, why would I expect that to be a converting
Right.
item? And so there's marketing and then there's actually the sales part.
Yeah.
And my marketing director used to always say, don't confuse the two, because if I'm just putting stuff out there so people know who we are,
Right.
why would I expect that to give me money in my bank account?
Yep. Yep. That's a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where entrepreneurs get a little confused. And like you talked about with consistency, it gets frustrating because I'm putting out post after post, yet no one's buying. Or I'm asking people to buy, but I haven't primed my audience to be a buying audience. And I think one of the things that really you shared before we started recording was that it's really about doing those things and doing them better over and building that muscle. Can you talk a little bit about that, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to launching?
Hmm. For sure. So, the person that I love to follow for launching is Amy Porterfield, and learned a lot from her. And one of the things she says that is absolutely true, I didn't believe it till I went through it, is the first launch, the first iteration of anything is more for us than it is for anybody else. And I thought, okay, that's all well and good. She's making a lot of money. It's easy for her to say, but she's absolutely right. That first launch was more for me than anybody else so that I could learn what worked, what didn't work, what resonated, what didn't resonate, who bought, why did they buy, who didn't buy, why didn't they buy? And then the next time, look at that information because that's all it is. It's not a success, it's not a failure, it's just information and make better decisions,
Yeah.
not changing the entire thing. Like I've had a couple of clients that will launch something in February on a certain topic. And then by the time we get to September, they're like, no, I'm tossing that out. I'm going to launch this on this other topic. And I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. You can do that. It's your business. But we need to take that thing you did in February and we need to do it 2 or 3 more times before you decide that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because you've got to give something several times so that you can grow, learn, change, evolve. So where I started with, I have an 8-week group coaching program called Business Visibility Made Easy. And what I first called it was something like Business Visibility Made Easy, and then attract your ideal clients and grow your visibility online or something like that. And that first launch, it wasn't bad. But what I realized was my audience wasn't saying the word visibility. Now they are. 7
Yeah.
launches later, I'm hearing a lot about visibility in the online space in the last 2 years. But when I was doing this, they were saying they wanted email list growth.
Yeah.
And you and I both know to get the list growth, you've got to be visible first.
Yeah.
But that's not what they were thinking. That's not what they were looking for. That's
Yeah.
not
They
what they
hadn't
wanted.
connected the breadcrumbs yet.
No. And so I was going at it from visibility. They were saying, I'm looking for list growth. The minute I changed it to grow an email list of your ideal clients without paid ads or something like that, and went in on the list growth part, that's when it started to convert. That's when the audience started to grow for it. And that's when I knew I was onto something. But I had to give it a couple of launches to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I also, as I'm a big fan of Amy Porterfield, and I launched, Amy and I have a similar first launch story. I think she made 267 and I made 297.
Oh
So
my,
when I have had her on the show, we joke about that.
yeah. Yeah.
And that was after expenses and stuff. So it was
Right.
very profitable. Definitely ready to retire on
Really good use of our time.
$297.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've learned over time is that businesses all have assets. Like when you look at some of the businesses you may have worked for, they have trademarks, they have products, they have a thing that they're doing over. And some of them do really well. And some of them maybe don't. And some of them are sunsetted. But really creating courses or programs or anything we're launching in the digital space is really about creating our asset suite. So things that we can launch over and over again and perfect that, and then maybe make a decision and say, okay, this wasn't the best thing for me to continue to do, but I at least have learned from the launch process. I at least have assets in the emails that I've built. I have all those things. And so I think sometimes we get really attached to what we've created, and very similar to in the corporate environment where people will say, I became my job title.
Yeah.
I became known as that. I think that happens in the online space where we're like, we get so attached to the thing that our identity is attached to it. And when it doesn't do well, we think we're not doing the right
Yeah.
thing or we're not, worthy or anything like that. So I love the consistency piece and the launching it over and over because many times it does take a couple iterations of that to really work out the kinks and
Mhm.
tweaks.
Yeah, it does. And the same goes for our free lead magnet. Just because we create one and put it out there doesn't mean it's the home run. In fact,
Yeah.
most of the time, the first thing you create isn't going to be the best version of it.
Yeah.
And so we have to just see what pieces of it are working. Where is everybody clicking? Are they not clicking at all? That's a sign. You
Yeah.
know, versus are they clicking and they're getting the landing page and then they're not opting in? Okay, then we know there's probably a landing page messaging issue or that kind of thing. And so we've got to try some things to, as you were saying, see what's working, lean in on the things that are working, see what's not working and fix those and go again
Yeah.
and
And
then
if
go
we
again.
Yeah, and if we can learn anything from buyers' behavior, there are a lot of people when the first iPhone came out, they're like, "I'm skipping iPhone 1. I'm
Yeah.
skipping 1 and 2 until they
Right.
work out the bugs.
Uh-huh.
I'm skipping this until I see if they stick around." Happens a lot. I do think that impacts buyers' behavior when we say, "Oh, I'm launching this new thing,"
Mhm.
where people may knowingly skip out of it because 'cause they're waiting until it's better. But
Mhm.
when they see you doing something 3 years in a row and
Mhm.
you have more testimonials of people who've actually seen results,
Right.
it adds credibility to that product or that thing.
It does. You're absolutely right. It's like when a new restaurant opens here, there are people that'll say, I'm going to give it about 2 or 3 months. I'm going to wait till the rush is over. I'm going to see if they actually stick around, if they
Yeah,
actually make it. Are they actually serious? And I think that's a lot of what we see in the online space. I have been known to do that. I have been known
yeah,
to become aware of somebody and I'll think, I'm going to wait and see. Are they really as
yeah,
serious about their business as they appear to be? Are they really do they have the credibility? Do they have the chops to stick with it? Because those are the people you wanna hire,
yeah,
right? You don't wanna
yes.
hire the person who's just doing it as a hobby and, "Oh, I'll just see if it works," and they're not really serious about it. Not
Yeah,
at all.
and trying to figure it out, like, I have pr a coach friend, she's a friend too, but she's also runs Powerhouse Women. I don't know if you've heard of her, Lindsay Schwartz, but she talks about allowing yourself to have a buffet year when you're trying to figure things out,
Nice.
like, have a buffet year, try some things out, and she does believe in niching down and
Mhm,
talking to a certain person, but she says many times when you're first getting started, you may think you want to do this and you really are meant to do that. And so if you allow yourself to have that buffet year where you try things out, you will naturally find your niche.
yeah.
And
I
I
like the way
think that,
she puts that. I think
yeah,
that's really powerful.
yeah. And not to say anything against anybody who just started, but when you just started, you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so you need to allow yourself the grace to be able to try things and
Mhm,
to know that sometimes that you're going to do things that you maybe shouldn't do for the future, but there's such powerful lessons in those. But when we
mhm,
abandon that ship too early,
mhm.
we miss not only the learning lessons, but we sometimes miss an opportunity.
For sure, we miss the evolution
Yeah.
of our next of the next level of our business. And then there's the people that start, like you're saying, and they keep jumping around and jumping around. Then
Yeah.
there's the people who never start because they want to get it perfect right out of the gate, and they're too scared to
Yeah.
jump out there and try something and evolve. I've
Yeah.
seen that before too. I want to make sure this is the perfect lead magnet. I want to make sure this is the perfect offer. This is I'm like, no, it's never. When I first started, I thought because of coming from corporate, there were benchmarks in success and productivity, right?
Yeah.
You hit those, you knew you were successful. And I thought, okay, I'm going to build this thing. The faster I move, the faster it's going to be built. And then I'm just going to, I thought it was, I don't know if I thought it was like a money machine or something. I don't know what I thought. But I thought the faster I get this thing built, the faster I can have the time freedom and sit on the beach with my laptop. And about 6 months in of exhausting myself, running at 150 miles an hour, I realized, Tracy, this business is never going to be fully built.
Yeah.
It is going to grow and evolve and change, and you need to chill out and relax
Mhm.
and then do what they tell you to do, which is enjoy the journey. Boy, if I had heard that one more time in my first year, I thought
Yeah.
I'd grow up. I was like, how in the world am I going to enjoy this journey when I'm running like a crazy woman?
Yeah.
Then, and I also, and people that follow me have heard me say this before, I also realized we're not building a McDonald's franchise
Yeah.
where you build the building, you put the cash registers in, you've got the menu, you've got the stuff, off you go. Isn't it grand? I'm going to go build another one. That's not what we're doing. We're building a business,
Yeah.
but we're building something that is going to grow and shift and change. And we've got to be willing to be comfortable with that. That's a
Yeah.
little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up McDonald's because I think there's such a parallel to what if McDonald's had waited to open the first store until they figured out the blueprints for franchising?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yes.
They wouldn't have opened, and they
No.
probably wouldn't be a franchise because they'd
Right.
still be figuring out. And so when McDonald's first opened, it was like one restaurant.
Mhm.
And then they figured out how to make that more efficient. And whether you follow the McDonald's story or not, if they had waited until they had
Yeah.
figured out their complete business model, their franchise model, how they're going to pay their franchisees, how they're going to recruit their franchisees and do all these things,
Yeah.
they never probably would have got off the ground because that little restaurant owner would be like, I don't even want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, why are we trying to do that? All I want to do is flip some burgers to
Yeah.
start. Let's just
Yeah.
start flipping burgers.
Let's
Yeah.
flip burgers
Yeah.
and burn a few. Let's drop some on the floor
Yeah.
and burn a few and have people tell us they stink and all the things that happen when we first
Yeah.
start out. I had my first 2 haters on YouTube the other day, and I thought it was hysterical. I was
Oh.
on one of my shorts. Somebody said that I was cringy, and then the person underneath that said, "Hello, grandma." And I just died laughing. I was like, and then of course, all my entrepreneurial friends were like, "You've arrived." So we've gotta have some wins. We've got to have some stinkers. Yeah, let's flip the burgers. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah. And I honestly could talk to you forever. I think the one thing that I would say to the people listening, if you are sitting in your cube or even your corner office and you're thinking that a business might be something you're interested in, I would say go for it. Challenge yourself to go for it. Be consistent, learn along the way, and just get it out there to start because that'll really tell you where you're meant to be. So I've absolutely loved this conversation. If somebody's listening and they're like, oh, I want to know more about how I might work with Tracy, where can they find you and what might they expect?
So I am always in my free Facebook group. It's called Be a Confident Entrepreneur, Get Visible, Grow Your Email List and Your Income. That's my happy place. It is a community of over 2,500 online entrepreneurs, and it is all about kindness and support. And if you're having a great day, awesome. If you're having a crap day, come on in. Let's love on you. If you can't get your podcast editing to work, post in the group. Somebody will help you. You know what I mean? That kind of support. So I love it. And working with me, I have elite one-to-one coaching. It stays full pretty much year round. But I also have my Business Visibility Made Easy program. That is an 8-week group coaching program where I teach you all of my free list building strategies, all the organic stuff you can do to grow your visibility, grow your email list without having to create yet another free lead magnet. And that launches 2 to 3 times a year, generally in January, February, then again in April, and then again in October.
Awesome. We'll put a link in the show notes to those things. Again, I could talk to you all day
Me too.
about business and entrepreneurship. It's such a great experience. And I just hope everyone reaches out to you because Tracy is a great resource. If you haven't been in her Facebook group, her lives are amazing. So definitely check those out. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, bold goal crushers. It's time to crush your goals and everything that gets in the way because you do not have to work double time. So let's get to it. Thank you for tuning in to the Bold Goal Crusher podcast, where we crush goals and everything that gets in the way. I always love to support my community. I look forward to seeing you crush your goals this year.